Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something that, for a long time, was kind of the secret sauce behind the internet, a real legend. We're talking about jQuery. So let's start with a thought experiment. Imagine trying to grab every single image on a web page and just, poof, make them all fade out smoothly. Sounds simple, right? Well, back in the day, that was a nightmare to code, just a huge pain. But jQuery came along and asked a really powerful question. What if all of that could be done with just one line of code? And to really get why that was such a big deal, we need to kind of time travel a bit. We've got to go back to the age of, well, let's call it clunky code. In this analogy, it's no joke. It was exactly like that. See, before jQuery, the absolute worst part was the browser wars. You'd write some JavaScript, get it working perfectly in, say, Internet Explorer, and then it would just completely break in Firefox. So developers were stuck writing these super long, complicated chunks of code for even the simplest things. And then they had to write different versions of that code for every single browser. It was a total mess, really inefficient, and honestly, it was holding the web back. But then, in 2006, something came along that just sliced right through all that complexity. It was a game changer. This was the write less revolution. And this phrase, write less, do more. That was jQuery's motto, and man, did it nail it. The whole idea was to take all that frustrating, repetitive work, finding things on a page, reacting to a mouse click, making a little animation, and just make it simple. It basically said, hey, let us handle the hard, boring stuff for you.
So, okay, what is it officially? Think of jQuery as a JavaScript library, which is really just a fancy way of saying it's a toolkit, a big box of pre-made shortcuts. It would take like dozens of lines of gnarly, standard JavaScript and wrap it all up into one single, clean little command that, and this is the magic part, just worked everywhere, on every browser.
And look, this right here shows you everything you need to know. On the left, you've got your standard vanilla JavaScript for just finding one thing on a page. It's a lot, a real mouthful. And then on the right, you have the jQuery way, just a $sign, some parentheses, and your selector. That's it. It's clean, it's easy to read, and it's so much faster to write. That is the whole write less, do more idea in a nutshell. All right, so let's get into the weeds a little. Let's look at jQuery's first real superpower, how it finds things on a web page and lets you mess with them so easily. Now, the truly genius part about how jQuery found things was that it wasn't new. They didn't invent some weird new syntax. They just borrowed it from CSS. This was huge. It meant that anyone, and I mean anyone, who knew how to style a web page with CSS already knew how to find things with jQuery. If you wanted to target a tag, an ID, or a class, it was the exact same system you were already using. Boom. Instantly, millions of people could use it. And once you grabbed an element, changing it was just as simple. You could use a command like .html to completely swap out all the code inside it. Or .text if you just wanted to change the words. Or even .val to grab or change what's inside a form field. Every command was short, made perfect sense, and you could even chain them together. But, okay, finding and changing text is one thing. Where jQuery really shined was in making web pages feel alive, making them dynamic, using events and animations.
It made reacting to what a user does so intuitive. It was like this simple recipe. First, you pick your trigger, say a button. Step 2, you tell it what to listen for, like a .click. And third, you just tell it what to do when that click happens. So in this case, clicking a button makes all the paragraphs disappear and reappear. It was just select, listen, act. So simple. And it even came with this awesome little toolkit of built-in animations. You didn't have to be some kind of coding wizard to add really slick effects to your site. You could just use a simple command like .fadeIn or .slideUp, and boom, you had these smooth, professional-looking animations. And again, they just worked right out of the box.
Okay, so this all sounds pretty amazing, right? And for its time, it absolutely was a total revolution. Which, of course, brings us to the big question, what about today? In our world of super modern JavaScript, does jQuery even have a place anymore?
Well, the truth is, the web grew up. And jQuery was so good, so successful, that a lot of its best ideas just got absorbed into the JavaScript language itself. Stuff that you had to use jQuery for, like finding an element and using a CSS selector, you can do that pretty easily now with plain old JavaScript. On top of that, you have modern frameworks like React or Vue, and they handle the web page in a totally different and, frankly, more efficient way.
But, and this is a huge but, jQuery is far from dead. Its role has definitely changed. You probably wouldn't build a big, complex new app with it from scratch today, but it still powers a mind-boggling number of websites. Think about all the older sites out there, and especially the entire WordPress universe, where jQuery is still baked right in. And honestly, for a quick, simple project where you just need a little bit of interactivity, it's still a fantastic lightweight choice. So, when you look back, jQuery was this incredible tool that solved a massive, frustrating problem. It set a whole new standard for what simple could look like. And that whole write less, do more idea, you can still feel its influence everywhere on the web. It's the tool that smoothed over all those browser headaches and gave a whole generation of developers the power to make cool, interactive stuff easily. It really did teach the web how to be interactive. Which leaves us with a fun question to think about. What's the next write less, do more revolution going to look like?